Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the World of Momos podcast. Today's episode, we have Nick Dixon with us. Hi there, Nick. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. We are going to talk to Nick about what the hell is going on in politics in Britain and also about the curse of the boomers. This episode is probably going to be titled as the curse of the boomers, depending on where the conversation actually goes. so, but
That's going to
first,
be tough for my audience because every time I say boomer, I get complaints from my audience. And I looked at the ages of them on YouTube, and they're basically all boomers. So I don't sign off on this at all. I disavow, strongly disavow.
the curse of Nick Dixon's
They,
audience.
yeah, they're great people. Great people. I've always said they're great people.
Okay, but first, we want to know a bit about Nick. So tell us about yourself, like however briefly or long you want.
Yeah, I was on trigonometry once. They asked me this, and I had nothing to say because I don't really think in like these terms of my journey. But I can give you a go. I mean, I give you a bit of it. I mean, really, I was just someone who wanted to do comedy. I was obsessed with comedy growing up, and I was always making the class laugh since I was 10 years old, and the teachers. This was my whole thing, waiting for like the moment. Then you strike and say the funny thing, and you're like, "Job done." Like that was my life. That was what I cared about.
It's so
It's like being
satisfying,
funny.
isn't it?
Yeah, that was what. It was so important to me for some reason. And I watched all the sitcoms, and we didn't get much stand up really, because there was no club where I was from or anything like that. But I was watching the bits of stand up we saw on the telly. Weirdly, one of the people that really resonated with me was Simon Evans. So I'm now mates with him, worked with for 3 years at GB News. Anyway, so I eventually started comedy. I ran into someone who was a comedian. The first person I'd met who actually did it as a living. So I started comedy and did that for like 11 years. But what became, and I did all right. I was in all the big clubs. I got on telly a little bit and this and that. I wasn't one of these people who had failed at it. The sort of cliche as a sort of failed comedian. Couldn't really say I'd failed because I was getting paid to, go over in different countries and perform and do the Comedy Store and all the big clubs. So I hadn't really failed, but I got to the point of lockdown, and we were obviously banned from doing gigs. Our jobs were taken away, and so I had this weird time where the first time since I'd begun in 2011 that I actually got to sort of not do gigs constantly, so I could actually stop and reflect if I actually wanted to do it. Whereas it was just so relentless until then. And then I started writing for Spiked partly because I was like, well, I can say some of my views now because the comedy world is less in my face. You may know the comedy world is extremely far left and also just full of snakes and idiots, and it's a nasty place of extreme leftist groupthink. So having no gigs for a minute in lockdown meant I could step back and sort of say more of my real opinions, which I started doing in Spiked, who ironically now do hit pieces against me and consider me too controversial, but at the time they were really controversial compared to comedy. So it has been a journey in that sense. So I started writing for Spiked, and then this GB News thing popped up. I never thought about GB News or anything. I ran into some people like Alex Phillips before it was even started. I didn't even know really what it was. But Andrew said, "Do you want to come on?" Andrew Doyle came on GB News, ended up doing more and more. They started this show called Headliners. Eventually went wrong due to the wrong people taking over and fell apart. But for a while, it was a good gig.
Yeah, it was good.
And now I'm doing my own stuff on YouTube and on nickdixon.net and doing a little bit of Lotus Eaters. That's the basics. I haven't gone into where I'm from or anything, but I'm from the north and from the
Which
Cumbria.
part of the north?
Well, I'm from the lakes in Cumbria, from the home of Wordsworth, and it's if you're from the north, you always think of that as your home.
How did you find your way over here? Like, why am I thinking you're over here? You're not physically on my podcast. I just realized. Do you still live like in Cumbria, or have you moved?
No, I live in London. I've been in London for years. I came in 2007, went back for a bit, and then back in 2009. But I've been here for a long time because of just work. I'm an economic migrant. There's no work where I live. If I wanted to take over my dad's restaurant or be a farmer or run a local bed and breakfast, is about all you can do where I'm from. So there's not many options. Although I still think of myself that as my home. If you're northern, it's always your home, and the lakes is always my home in Cumbria. And when I hear anything that they're trying to do, like I don't know, move English people out of the country or whatever that latest thing, countryside is too white, or let's have a mosque in Cumbria, or anything I hear like that, I always go, it always hurts me personally. Because it's my home and it's my people. And so that's how I feel. But I have lived, unfortunately, in London as a kind of atomized bug man living in London. I'm living the life that I disavow, which is the sort of single, selfish, atomized, liberal. I'm not liberal, obviously, but I live the life that they sort of atomized Quagmire, but I always say don't live this way. But weirdly, I've ended up sort of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's for work, isn't it? Like, it's very strange how there isn't any other hub, any better hub. Like Birmingham is a shithole, right? But any better hub in the north that you don't all have. Everyone shouldn't have to coalesce in London,
I know.
But it just happens like this is where everything is.
They're always talking about
Pretty
making it
annoying.
in Manchester, aren't they? And they moved to BBC to Manchester and stuff. But yeah, it's and do you know what?
Then
A lot of it's
again,
ended
like
up.
that place is already like so shit. So
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
choose
It's
a
very
better
weighted
place.
towards London economically. There's no doubt about it. Although weirdly now I end up going to Swindon, which is purely because of the quirks of
Mm,
Carl. So maybe I'll end up moving towards there. Because actually, I don't need to be in London finally. For GB
mm,
News, I was working till 12 a.m. And really, if you look at where you can actually live, if you don't want
mm,
to drive, and I'm terrible at driving, so I'm like, where can I actually go after? I look at the trains. You're like, I could live in Reading. There's basically not many places you could live if you have to
mm,
work till 12 every night
yeah.
or 3 nights a week, as I was. And so I looked at it, I was like, I still have to stay in London. But for the first time now, I could actually try and move to nearer Lotus Eaters or something. But then
Mm,
they all tell me Swindon's a
yeah.
dump as well. But apparently the surrounding areas are good. But then you've got to drive. So I'm just thinking, because
Yeah.
what I'm doing is commuting from the really expensive place to
Yeah.
a cheap place, which is the wrong way around now. So I have to look at it again.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 I mean, I live in Essex. It's right next to London. I hate going into London. So, but like London is encroaching more and more into Essex. It's like they're already taking Havering. Romford is gone. Like
Yeah.
we got now Elizabeth Line coming till Brentwood. Like so, it's just they're encroaching more and more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
you can't
ethnic
escape from
cleansing
them.
of the Cockneys. They've run
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Essex, but now they're coming for them. Yeah,
Exactly, and the Essex people are now trying to move into Suffolk, and the Suffolk people will try to move somewhere. You know, somewhere, someone has to make a stand and say no. Someone
right.
has
Yeah,
to be the Gondor to this Mordor of
I know
London.
people always think, "Oh, I'll just move." Blah blah. It's like where?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Where everywhere is gonna be the same, anyways. So that sort of leads really well into what the hell is happening politically, right? So, what are your views? Like looking at all the parties, we can go like one by one to all the parties. Yeah. What do you think is going right now? We'll start with right now. What's going on right now with Starmer and Labour?
hmm Well, so Starmer's, as we record, he could be gone any day, but it looks like he's
Mm,
clinging on for a little bit because
mm,
this Anas Sarwar in Scotland went too soon and said he's got to go, and everyone else went, "What? Well, we don't agree," and they
mm,
left him hanging. So he looks stupid now. What I was saying to you just before, unless in the long term, when Starmer goes, he can say, "I was the first to say it." But basically, he was worried about his position in Scotland, where Labour are incredibly unpopular. So he felt he
mm,
had to do something and say, "Oh, this is terrible." And so it could play well in Scotland, but not amongst the parliamentary
yeah.
party, the cabinet. So he's in trouble. But Starmer's is sort of clinging on. He's not the kind of guy to ever leave. He's got no self
Mm,
awareness.
yeah.
He's done some rallying speech apparently, and one insider said it was the best they'd ever seen him, which is a pretty
Yeah.
low bar. But apparently, it was the best they'd ever seen him back against the wall, just fighting, going,
Yeah.
"I'm going to carry on doing rubbish stuff." But yeah, with his terrible weak
Yeah.
punch, it's the weakest
Yeah.
punch anyone's ever seen. So he's rallying in a disturbing way. Obviously, Streeting came out, released the
Mm,
WhatsApp messages with Mandelson, trying to get ahead of that.
yeah.
What's fascinating is they've all got something wrong with them. So Streeting has the link with
Yeah.
Mandelson.
Yeah.
Rayner's got the tax thing.
Yeah.
Miliband's Ed Miliband, which is a
Mm,
big problem. Oh no, he's also done it before. Burnham has been blocked from becoming an MP. So you can go through them. Shabana Mahmood, they'd never give it to.
yeah.
So you can go through. Al Khan's is my sort of outside pick because he's
Mm,
he's got a military background, former Royal Marine, and Dominic Cummings
mm,
said he's the only one that could do a decent job, but he's very unlikely to get it. But actually, another thing, a little sort of complication is you have to have an interim for 8 weeks. It's like
yeah.
Man United.
Mm,
Basically, if they got rid of Starmer today, their rules say you've got it. They could probably maybe they could tear up the rules, but the rules say
yeah.
you've got to have an interim for 8 weeks. Then you have to figure out who the actual next leader is
Yeah.
going to be. So we could have some idiot for 8 weeks and then another idiot in eight.
Yeah.
So it's not great. It's a bit of a mess. It's very hard to Tories just replace their leader, like
Yeah.
changing underwear. But
Yeah.
these Labour, it's quite a process.
Mm. But also, I mean, his rallying speech could have just been, okay, I'll call on a general election. If you want to remove me, I'll call a general election. And I know they know they all lose their seats, right? So they'll just back him. But I don't really understand this. Like I saw a lot on X and other places as well. People um were thinking that if he is gone, somehow the problems will be fixed,
Hmm.
right? Like, like how, is Starmer isn't the problem with labor. It's a whole, it's the ideology that is, like, that is there. And if we have to defeat labor, you have to defeat that ideology, not a man. It doesn't matter. Just getting rid of Starmer, right? And if, let's assume, if half a decent person comes in and does half a decent job, right? Unlikely. But if they do it, right, a lot of people will just then diffuse. They'll be like, okay, yeah, it's fine. I want him to stay and destroy labor. I don't want him gone.
Yeah. Well, clearly the position we're in, and if you read things like Dominic Cummings, he's very good on this. I think he
Mm,
compared it to 1840 to 1870. He's always got these historical references. But we're in a period of change, but the main parties have not acknowledged this. So
yeah.
therefore, we see Labour going through exactly the same that we saw the Tories go through, which is imploding. But they can
Mm,
only implode because they can't do anything. They can't fix any
yeah.
of our problems, immigration being the
Mm,
most obvious, but any number of problems. For example, in Streeting's WhatsApps to Mandelson, he says, well, look, they've got no plan for growth. But they
mm,
were elected on growth. It was like, oh, well, they were elected on hating the Tories, but their
mm,
manifesto was all about growth. They haven't achieved growth. So they can't achieve anything. They can't solve immigration, housing, any other problem that we have, they can't solve. And neither could the Tories, and they made it much worse. So until they acknowledge, okay, our whole worldview is wrong and our whole approach is wrong, and we need to gut the civil service and
mm,
all these things, the deep state, but as Cummings says, no, they're responding by going, no, no, we're right. The voters are naughty and bad and wrong,
mm.
and
Yeah.
we're right. We're the victims.
Yeah.
So it's completely backwards. So, and this is why, and we can get onto reform later if you want, but that's why people
Mm,
say, oh, reform are going to be the thing. But there's already so much indication, and people get annoyed with me. There's so much indication that reform are going to be the continuation,
yeah.
partly the
Yeah.
fact that it's literally the same people. And
Yeah.
so, unless a party really gets it and
Mm,
it really says, right, we need something very radical, and the only person I see who behaves like this is Rupert Lowe. We need something so radical
mm.
that none of the main parties are going to get close to doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Tories aren't even worth talking about anyway, so they're not getting anything. But forget about them. But yeah, let's go on to reform, right? Because this has been my problem since before the elections, and people were jumping onto me when I was telling them don't vote reform. As soon as Farage came back, it's like, not a serious person. He's not gonna care about policies. This is just gonna be his vehicle for populist ideas and stuff. Nothing will get done, right? Okay, people can agree, disagree on that, don't care, but like, just see what's going on right now. Like, what they've done to gain more popularity, or like broad church. There's such a broad church. They want to be the same issues that were Tories, like, and not only they filled themselves in with failed Tories, and some not failed Tories as well, but still liberal Tories. They've also filled themselves in like with liberal supporters, right? Because they're signaling to them all the time. And when people say, okay, they are only hope, I don't understand what that hope looks like, because it looks like the same as Tories. So much so that they're looking like Lib Dems 2.0 rather than Tories 2.0. And um, then people also say, oh, when he wins, then he will change it. Like, how and why? Like, on your face, whatever you want, he keeps on saying he doesn't want it. On your face, if you want de-Islamization of Britain, they are talking about the Anglican Islam, whatever the hell that means, right? And they saying, oh, we putting up moderate Muslim candidates, but you clearly are not going to solve the problem, right? How are you going to make them solve the problem once they're in that phase? How are they going to make their own apparatus solve the problem when they're filled in with so many people who don't want to solve the problem, right?
Mhm.
So it's sort of like, it just seems like a failed project from the start. It just seems like continuation of the establishment. That, how I see it, the establishment going forward is going to be replaced by Tories, and Labour are going to be replaced by Reform and Lib Dems, right? Because people who don't want Tories or Labour, they're going to vote Lib Dems. There will be some votes for Green Party as well, obviously, but not as much. Green Party might take the position of the Lib Dems. Lib Dems might take the position of the Labour, and Reform will take the position of the Tories, right? Like, that's like sort of musical chairs shifting that I see it. No fucking real change happens.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. I mean, except that perhaps it might be Greens versus Reform, I think. But yeah, you broadly, I agree with all of that. I mean, I get so much. I was just gonna. Can we say shit off
Yeah, say whatever.
off
I've already
reform
said fuck.
people?
So.
Yeah, so sometimes YouTube, but I
Yeah.
get so much off reform people. Now it has gone down. When I first started saying, "No, these people are not going to do it," I got so
Mm.
much abuse. Now it's toned down a bit because so many people now agree with me.
Yeah.
But I've noticed there's a lot of very rude reform people in the replies. They always start by being patronising, smug, and aggressive. And I think this
Yeah.
is not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And the chances that
Yeah.
you know more about it than me, or that you're so much
Mm.
smarter than me, I mean, come on. Maybe they are. But then the
Mm.
way they should approach it, if you want to persuade someone,
Yeah.
approach it by being like
Mm.
persuasive, not by abusing me. So
Mm.
they're horrible, a lot of them. But I'm sure many of them are great people. But the thing is, I voted reform. This idea that I'm
Mm.
anti-reform, I voted reform. They can't
Mm.
do anything in my area. In my area,
Mm.
Labour beat Tories and reform put together. Double
Mm.
it. They doubled. Sorry, they
Mm.
doubled both of them put together.
Yeah.
More than double. So I didn't have to worry about this Peter Hitchens thing
Mm.
that I'd got it brought in the Labour, because
Yeah.
it was a pointless vote.
Yeah.
But I did vote for them. And I was prepared to back them. But then you see what they are. One, they constantly signal against the right, as you say, and they constantly signal where they're
Mm.
on the side of the left. I said they were like the old Lib Dems ages ago. I'm glad that you said it. I've been saying it for
Mm.
ages. Socially liberal, economically liberal.
Yeah.
They're the old Lib Dems, right?
Mm.
Then you get the fact that they don't seem to want to build a team. You've got James Orr, who I know, good guy, very smart. I don't know if he can do it alone, but
Yeah.
they don't. He sort of seems to be in charge of like building the team, but they don't
Mm.
seem to have done much on this that I've seen, or that Dominic Cummings has
Seems
seen.
like
He's saying,
token appointments, doesn't it? Like
yeah,
these sort
yeah.
of, yeah.
They need somebody who's so ready to get a team together of like elite talent
Mm.
that's separate from politics. That's okay. You can have a Danny Kruger. Okay,
Yeah.
you can have a Jenrick. I understand that. It's not the end of the world. But
Mm.
Nazim Zahawi, Jake Berry, Nadine Dorris.
Yeah.
Andrew. I like Andrew Jenkins, but it's just like Sarah Poachin. These are all Tories. It's literally the same people.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're the real change, Nick. But you understand it's the same people. Can we at
Yeah.
least agree
Yeah.
that it's just, it's the right it's the good Tories? Okay, but then that's not radical change, is it? It's
Mm.
slightly more to the right, allegedly to
Yeah.
the right Tory party. It's not the complete wet from the Tories. It's the slightly
Yeah.
better ones. Plus some of the really bad ones, like
Yeah.
Zahawi and Berry. So it's like,
Yeah.
if they just kept to Jenrick and Kruger, I could sort of live with it. But it's like, it's not even the good Tories. So
Yeah.
one thing we're told repeatedly, which is just a pure rhetorical claim with no basis, is this is the last chance. This is the last chance. We've got to support reform, or it's the last chance. I'm like, well, that's just something you've made up. You're saying it a lot, but it's
Yeah.
not that. I mean, one, there's a lot of ruin in a nation, to quote roughly, I think, Adam Smith. It can get a lot worse, but it can also be reversed. I think
Mm.
people are talking about the next election, it's over. I'm not being optimistic and saying, oh, it's great. I'm just saying it can also keep being over for a lot longer, or it can
Mm.
also get better over a much longer
Yeah.
period. This idea that the last election, what does that mean? Because
Mm.
reform aren't going to fix immigration anyway. So if they mean
Yeah.
immigration numbers, I'm not sure what they mean, or if
Yeah.
they mean the economy or welfare. But it's
But
not the last
that's the
one.
only, Nick, that's the only way that people should mean, right? The immigration, the demographic numbers, because that's why it's the last election, because by that time Boris Wave would have been 10 years old, right? Being in this country, and they would all get citizenships automatically, like not automatically, but they can apply for it. They'll get indefinite leave to remain and stuff. So only from that perspective, but people are too afraid to be called racist and stuff like that they're not saying it out loud, right? Because the English population, not the English, just the English, but the native British population of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, they've gone below 70% overall, right? Let's just imagine if these people who came in Boris Wave, right, like a lot of them, majority are Indians, South Indians and stuff, right? They all become British in 10 years' time, British citizens. Then becomes a problem. How do you remove those people will become even harder, because getting rid of citizenships, I know people like to talk about it. I say it as well, like when I'm annoyed online, like, oh yeah, we're deporting everyone, right? Including myself. But we're deporting everyone, right? But it's harder by law to do it if someone already has a citizenship, right? And
Mhm.
then you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That's why I think so there's a sense of urgency that if something has to be fixed, something has to be fixed properly right now, and we can't make like half-ass like attempts like reform is going to do. They're not even going to make half-ass, they're not going to make any attempts. I'm pretty damn sure you know what they're going to do. They're not going to have a proper plan, and then they're going to rally the people again saying, see, we wanted change, but the lords are not letting us do it. The civil service are not letting us do it, because that is Faraj's biggest game, right? Creating a bigger opposition than he can fix, so that he can rally against, like he can play the, like, underdog. That's what he's going to do. And 5 more years of that, people will buy in again, because, and if anyone wants to say people won't buy it, right? People have been buying fucking Tories and Labour for a very long time. So
Mm.
it does seem like the public has the capacity to buy in crap more. Maybe that's going down because people are getting frustrated more and more. I don't know, but I think so. That's what my main problem with reform, like, because a lot of people say like it's just surface level. It's not actually. I saw them in Essex, right? I got frustrated with Tories because they put safe seats in Essex, right? Kemi Badenoch is stood from Saffron Walton. James Cleverly is from there. Pretty Patel one seat from there, right? They already have seats from there. They never do anything for Essex. They're never nowhere to be seen. Kemi Badenoch has probably never been seen in Saffron Walton, right? So they don't care about local issues, and all these wokeness and stuff was getting into Essex, even though it was a highly conservative council. Even the councillors were Tories, right? So they didn't give a shit about that. And when I saw the elections coming up, Reform stood a candidate in Malden. At that time, I was living in Malden. That person did not. She wasn't from Malden, right? She didn't live in that area, and not a single Reform person came knocking on anyone's door in Malden. So I was like, well, you're doing the same thing. You're standing your paper candidates. And that's what I got annoyed with. I was like, how are you going to solve the problem when you keep on standing your, and we saw in the local elections as well. They stood all their people in as local councillors who kept on talking about national issues. How the hell you, as a councillor for Braintree, can affect the fucking immigration? You can't. That's not your talk about some local issues,
Hmm.
and this was my main, just want people to know that this was my main annoyance with them, that they kept on ignoring the what the politicians are supposed to do.
Yeah, I noticed with Matt Goodwin, and
Hmm.
he's been campaigning. He'll probably get better, but they're asking him in Gorton and Denton. So what are you going to do for for us then? And he was like, and he started talking about Keir Starmer. They're like, well, no, we want to know what you're going to do about local issues, and he didn't know
Yeah.
any of them. So that was you could say Reform has an issue of resources. They obviously don't have the same resources as other parties, but yeah, the and by the way, you could still vote for Reform if you want. It's just simply that I don't believe they're going to fix any of these
Don't
problems.
expect
That's
change.
all. But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean there's no one else to vote for. Now, if
Yeah.
Rupert Lowe starts a party and puts his candidate there, or if the SDP do, I'd vote for them instead. But it's not
Mm.
like I'm saying, oh, you're not allowed, no one should vote Reform. I'm just saying simply there's no indication, as you said, that they're going to
Mm.
fix anything because they're not even saying they are. Like Farage had to be pushed on mass deportations by Stephen Edgington. He had to be pushed on
Yeah.
Islam by Winston
Yeah.
Marshall. He said he constantly signals and attacks the right. It's like I'm supposed to automatically love these people, even though they constantly attack me and my
Yeah.
friends and ban them from the party. I've had friends
Yeah.
literally banned from the party.
Mm.
So it's like, hang on, why am I supposed to vote for them when they hate me? I'm just like a total,
Mm.
I'm just a cuck, just voting for people that hate me. It's insane.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, James doesn't hate, like, people, they've got good people like James or so there are people in there that are
Mm.
sort of I feel more aligned with, but I don't know how they're going to cope when it's such a liberal party. Now, if they
Yeah.
said on the Boris Wave point, if they stood and said, right, where our one thing is to send back the Boris Wave, I'd say
Mm.
absolutely vote for them. It's like, right,
Yeah.
that's all we're going to do. We're sending back the Boris
Yeah.
Wave because they shouldn't have come here anyway, and we didn't need
Yeah.
them, and it was a mistake, and they're going back, and that would be
Mm.
that. And the CEO used to have said some things like that. So to be fair, if I'm being really fair, I'm not saying even all I'm saying is the truth as I see it. I see what Farage is doing, I see what Reform are doing, and I just say what I think. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you can't vote for them because who are you going to vote for instead? I
Yeah.
mean, there's no options until Rupert
Yeah.
Lowe. I think Rupert Lowe is going to launch a party, but until he does that,
Yeah.
there's no real option
I
anyway.
mean, that's a very like let's talk about advanced UK as well, right? Because that's a possibility that Rupert Lowe might merge over there, and give more meat to the bone if possible or not. So I've been a member of, I was with SDP for a very long time, right? Then last summer I got convinced into being a member of Advanced UK. So I've been seeing what they're doing in the background and stuff. They have grown their membership quite quickly, so under 6 months they're 40,000 members or something. It looks good. It looks like it sort of looks like a good platform to build something on, and if the right people joined in, they can improve upon it better, right? Because it's not a dictatorial sort of a thing. It's not like one man controlling it, right? Because they have already built that. Like if you like SDP, this is the reason why I loved SDP, because you can kick out the leader. I don't want William Clouston to be kicked out, but you know what I mean. Like you have that security that you can't just change the policies on us and expect us to just follow you, right? Because that's the problem with reform. Like yeah, he changes his mind from Farage changes his mind from one interview to another interview. So what is to say, as soon as he wins the election, he says, "Yeah, I'm doing nothing of that sort," right? Because just a week or two before the election of 2024, he got Zia Yusuf in. If he got him straight away, people wouldn't have voted for him, right? People wouldn't have supported him. So he could change that, right? But like in advance, I saw like, okay, there's a platform, there's something building over there. Where it goes remains to be seen. It doesn't seem like Rupert Lowe wants to join in. There's some reservations or stuff. I've been told there will be negotiations after the inquiry. I don't know. We'll see what happens over there. What do you think about Advanced UK? Like, what do you think? As like, I personally, I don't like the name. I've never liked the name. But apart from that, like, what do you think?
Well, I never really talk about him because I don't like to sort of counter signal because I like Ben.
Mm,
I don't want to. So I never actually talk about him because I was actually offered to be part of Advance UK. It's so
mm,
funny because people in my comments were always saying, "Oh, Advance is the answer," and they're telling me you should look into Advance. I'm like, no, I was literally asked to be in it, Advance
mm.
UK, but I don't even talk about that. But I thought Rupert Lowe was going to be leader at the time, and then when he wasn't,
So
I
did
was
I.
just
Yeah.
waited to see because to
Mm,
me it had to be Rupert, and I think Ben was aware of that and has even said
mm,
that he would step down if Rupert
mm.
came in and things like that. So it's not that it's all about Ben's ego, but it's simply
Yeah.
Rupert didn't want to be involved. I could see people were saying to me Rupert will be leader, but I could kind of see that he wasn't going to just because of the way
Yeah.
he was hedging his bets.
Mm.
And so when he didn't join, to me that ceased to be the right vehicle.
Why do you think
But I
there
don't want
is
to be.
that hesitation from him?
I
Like,
don't
what
know.
do you like
Well,
speculate? Like,
as I understand it, it was just a difference about whether it was the right time for a party. Whereas he thought he
mm,
had to prove a concept with this movement of restore, and then with Great Yarmouth first, or whatever.
yeah,
But he seems to want
yeah.
to. But now,
But
in
now
recent
if
interviews,
he,
he's now talking about needing a
yeah.
party.
So like, if he like now if he thinks is the time for a party, and then there's a party already with 40,000 members, and then he can sort of develop it. Why shouldn't he join that rather than if he starts another one, right? I think so. Then there's a more of a chance of Lib Dems and Greens actually taking advantage in 2029, because there will be too much fragmentation then. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
it'll be a semantics thing. I mean, yeah, if Rupert did take over, it'd change the name presumably to Restore
Probably,
Britain,
probably
and it
Ben
would
would be
be.
fine with that. Yeah,
Yeah, he probably would because Advance, as
yeah,
you say, is not a good name.
yeah,
So they'd change and then they'd lead. Yeah, so then that'd be fine. To me, it has to have Rupert involved. But the other thing it has to have
yeah,
is it has to be serious. I
yeah.
I think you can't. There's certain characters you
I know
don't
what
want to
you
just.
mean. I know what you
Okay,
mean. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
You don't
and,
you don't want to get all the big media names involved and say, look at our
yeah,
cool person we've got now who are not
yeah,
serious, who just want to do. Some people are
yeah,
really good for rallies. Let's be honest.
yeah,
Some people are really good for getting loads of people on the
yeah.
street, and some people are good at serious politics. And I think you've got to
Hmm.
be careful.
Yeah, I think so. Like from what I see, and I don't want to feel like too biased, right? Because because the national director, I think so. Richard Thompson, right?
Yeah. I really like
Yeah.
Richard.
So he's a friend, right? So I don't want to be too biased because he's a friend, but I think so. What it is like, because they are so new, um, I think so. They're trying to find that balance, right? So hopefully, having someone like Rupert Lowe might help them find that balance a bit better, right? To have that experience and stuff. But like I said, like it remains to be seen. I think so. They in their college. I met them this weekend. Was it this weekend? I think so. They had their culture and immigration conference. So I went over there and I met a lot of people of the in their college, and those are serious people, right? Like those are serious thinking sort of people. So I was very pleased to see like these are the engine behind it who are creating the policy. But I think so in this day and age, you gotta mix heavy populism with you know with a bit of brains. So like some people you can use as rallying, like you were saying, and some people you need to make it just as policy. And the problem with reform is they only have the populist people, right? So it remains to be seen. I'm still not like 100% convinced. I think so. I'm wait because there's always everyone still has that question: is Rupert Lowe going to join? Every single person, right? I went on that conference. A lot of the members asked me that. I was like, I have no idea. What are you asking me for? Like, I'm just a member. I'm just sitting at the front. Doesn't make me anything. You know. But yeah, I think so. Unless that specter of Rupert Lowe is resolved, I don't think so. They can move on as a party. And if
Yeah, well,
Rupert Lowe decides to start another party, I think so 2029 is going to be way too chaotic.
yeah, well, I just think my guess has always been that just Rupert doesn't think it's the right vehicle or is serious.
Mm.
But maybe, like you say, since they've already built up the membership, to
Mm.
port it across would be the simplest way, since it'd be the same people. Because I
Yeah,
did join Restore Britain, I was happy to join that. It's one of the few
yeah,
things.
I
It's
joined
not a
that as well.
party.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, and to be fair, I didn't go to that thing in the end. But to be fair, Thompson is great because he's former military and
yeah,
he seems like a
yeah.
good, solid guy. And I'm sure they do have people like you say, though it didn't seem that clear from what I've seen of that event. Like I said, I didn't go in the end, but I didn't see very clear, like great policies listed.
Mm.
But because this is what Pete North's always saying. I know you've had
Yeah,
him on, and he's always saying, "Look, you've got to have your policies."
yeah,
And there's no one good enough for Pete, of course. But
yeah,
he's very harsh on that. But he does have a good point. I mean,
yeah.
SDP kind of have and I've spoken to them about this. They have the
Mm.
kind of
Yeah,
boring side, and they
mm.
need a bit more on the showmanship
Yeah,
side. And as you say, reforms all
mm.
showmanship. But I think with someone like Rupert Lowe, he does have a public um, profile. He's got
Mm.
9% in
Yeah,
some polls just on
mm.
his name.
Yeah,
So him with some serious people behind him
yeah,
is a genuine thing.
yeah.
And if it's not, then we need the next thing. Some people say Rupert's gonna be too old by the time reform have got in
Yeah,
and
but he can
failed, and
build
that's also true.
something so other
Yeah.
can take on. It doesn't have to be him, like himself, sort of a thing. Like
And you have to think as insanely long term as the left. Remember, the left,
Yeah,
we often hear about the long march through the institutions.
yeah,
These people are relentless. They do it, they go on
yeah,
for decades. They're like Satan. They've been
mm.
there sort of since the
Yeah,
beginning, all right? They are they are like this ultimate evil in the world
yeah.
that never goes away. They will never stop. So we have to think about decades and 100 years. Like Lee Kuan
Exactly.
Yew, we have to think about eternity.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a long fix, right? And like this is these are the like some of the uh, tinkering sort of issues over there, but with advance as well, right? And I know like what Pete was saying about the about the policies and stuff like that as well. So it wasn't the thing was the points that Ben Habib put out were the points that he distilled from a bigger policy draft that they've made that they haven't launched, right? So I think so. The thinking over there, now this is me speculating, the thinking over there not to release the full detailed policy is so that it doesn't, the same thing that happened to SDP doesn't happen to them. Because what Reform did was just they stole all of SDP's policy when they released them full, right? So what Advance is thinking, okay, this is a draft policy. That's what Ben was saying, and we're going to keep on tinkering with it till the election time, right?
You know what they should do is put out fake policies, then reform, steal really bad policies,
That is
then exchange it.
actually the spoof policies to put out. But now, like, I think so that was their thing. But I know for a fact that those points are not just the policies, that they have actually a big huge document and stuff, which I have sort of had the oversight of as well, like, but like I think so people won't have the confidence unless they see it. And they're not, I think so they're not in that position, right? Like they're not in the Reform position, or they're not in the Tories position where they're already so well known that if someone else steals their policies, they can point and shut them down, right? If they steal Advance's policies, it will be the same as stealing SDP's policies. SDP say, oh, you stole our policies, yeah, the tweet gets 20 likes and everyone ignores it, right?
Mm.
Nobody is there to actually back up their claim. I think so that's a bit of hesitation. But then again, people would say, well, if you're not confident with that, then don't release any policies. But yeah, I think so there's a lot of good points to be made on either side. I think so everyone is waiting for Rupert Lowe. So on the political right, I think so Rupert Lowe has made himself that sort of person that everyone is just waiting for him, and we can't speculate unless he enters it properly.
Yeah, because no one knows Advance UK. Now, obviously, I really like
Mm,
Ben. People don't really
mm,
know Ben. They certainly don't know Advance as a name.
yeah,
But people actually do know Rupolo, as I said, more than is
mm,
claimed. Everyone says, "Oh, no one's ever heard of him." Well, there are
yeah,
polls that show people have, and he is in
yeah,
Parliament asking big questions and
yeah,
making a lot of noise in there, and also doing work with different, cross-party work and getting things done. He's one of
mm,
the very few people that seems to be all about getting things done. He's a businessman. He's got a very high
yeah,
net worth.
yeah,
He's a guy that gets things.
yeah,
So does Ben, to be fair. But
yeah,
he's about getting things done, and he's in there quite visible, asking annoying questions that everyone
mm,
hates, which means good questions.
yeah,
And they all go, "Oh, how can you say that?
mm,
You're awful." And it's like, I
exactly.
don't care.
He's the one
And
who
the reason
just
I liked
shrugged
him,
it
he was
off.
one of the
You
guys.
know?
He was the only guy saying he was the only MP when he was in Reform. I was
Mm,
looking at him going, "This is the only MP I can just retweet these about. I can agree with these and go, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I think." And that's the only time that's happened to me in
yeah,
in like living memory. I'm like,
mm,
this MP is saying something I agree with rather than
mm,
something I despise.
yeah,
Then of course they kicked him out. I was like, that was the other thing about Reform, which I've not
yeah,
even mentioned because it's kind of old news, but
yeah,
that was like, oh, the one guy that I identified
mm,
with, like, this is my guy. You say, yeah, you
yeah.
kick him out. And that's just so Reform. It's like, yeah,
And
we
not just
hate
like
you.
kick, and not just kick them
Not just
out,
kick him
like
out, but hound him.
how exactly, right? So I kept on saying this, like it's really for me personally, for me, whether people agree or disagree, it's not how you like. It's how you play the game that matters most to me, right? It's not if you win or if you lose, but how you play the game. You know, if you are going to be that sort of a nasty person who's going to cheat, who's going to lie, who's going to deceive, then that the win is going to be tainted with that. The win is going to be corrupted with that. I know politics is a dirty game, but that's what we want to fix. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
how are we going to fix it if you're getting the same people to do the same sort of things, to dirty on each other, hire hope not hate, like to, you know, how
Oh,
are we going
yeah.
to fix this swamp when you're going to become a swamp monster yourself? Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, there is something in that. And ultimately, it does blow up if you see what's happening with Peter Mandelson and with Wes
Hmm.
Streeting and Starmer and all these. Yeah, it always blows up. So you're right. You've got to have integrity from the start. You've got to
Hmm.
win, but you've got to maintain integrity. Very difficult, but
Yeah.
that's what we want.
But
Yeah,
I guess it remains to be seen on that side. After the rape inquiry is finished of Rupert Lowe, what happens, whether they come to an agreement or not. I really hope they come to an agreement because um, like people really need someone to back, because otherwise people are really going down this doom spiral. You know, they're really going down this black hole, and it's not nice. Like this, like, you know, I find myself depressed so many times, and I'm that sort of person who's never been depressed. Like, you know, it's always happy no matter what happened, like, you know. And it needs something. There's a vehicle over there. I like Advanced UK because they have so many ex servicemen as well. There are so many ex-service people joining up, and it seems like a good place over there. Whatever it is, already got 40,000 members. Build on it, and that can build up really quickly when you already have a vehicle which is 40,000 members. Pretty soon, a combo of Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe could do wonders. You know,
yeah. There's definitely
so
that space, isn't there?
yeah,
There's that space on the actual right or the actual Conservatives. If we
yeah,
accept that Reform and not that, and the Liberals and they're the
mm,
Tory 2.0, there's still a space there. People say it's splitting the right. I just don't see Reformers on the right. They're just the
no,
Tory
exactly,
Liberals. So therefore, it still leaves
yeah,
a space. Whether it leaves another space electorally, that is a question.
mm.
But if enough people came from Reform to a new party, potentially it does.
And you can see a lot of actually the councillors, reform councillors, are actually defecting to Advance UK. You know, so
Yeah,
you see that as well.
it's kind of
um
amazing how widespread the idea is. And again, I don't
yeah,
have like ultimate
how
proof of this,
normal it
but
is now to defect.
well, yeah, how the idea that Reform are going to get in but fail. Like Dominic Cummings did
Yeah,
all these focus groups, and that was what
yeah.
so many people said. They said, "Well, Reform are going to get in, they're going to fail, then I might leave the country." This is like it's so
So
widespread.
why are we doing this? Like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
why are we
it's
even doing
bizarre
this game? Yeah,
because
that's why. Like,
'cause people hate the main parties, and there's no serious
yeah,
equivalent at the moment. It's
yeah,
alternative. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I didn't see anyone's like immigration policy that was. I liked SDP's immigration policy. It was a lot tougher than Reform, Tories, or anyone else. And then the only thing that has beaten SDP's policy, at least policy points, is Advance UK, because they've gone even harder. Because that's what
Is
I
this the
said as
very
well. Like,
recent SDP one? Because they've got a
yeah,
new one that's coming out apparently,
yeah.
and I haven't seen it yet.
The I saw the points over there where they talked about accession, as I can't even say it. Like they talked about building that Ascension
Ascension
Island.
Island. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and they talked about red listing certain countries and stuff like that, right? And but I think so the advanced one like went even further when they want to, take away all the benefits and stuff from non-citizens, which shouldn't even have to talk about. Like,
Right,
who the
right,
hell
right.
gives like benefits to non-citizens and stuff like that? And they went a bit further. They went a bit like, they want to get rid of people, but they want people to leave themselves anyway. So they want to motivate people to leave, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot that can be done with voluntary.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but we'll see on that side. So let's talk about a little bit about SDP, anyways, right? Because I love everyone in SDP, right? Because I love William Clouston. He's such a nice guy. I have a lot of friends in SDP. That's why I was with SDP as well. What is their failing?
They're failing. Well, it's interesting. I've got an interview coming out with Adam, who's a young lad in the
Yeah,
SDP, who's good. As you
I'm
say,
actually
William, brilliant.
I'm doing a series with him about the history of English identity. So
Oh,
like,
brilliant.
yeah, a whole like series, history series with
Yeah,
him.
he's a historian. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and William's brilliant. I mean, William is
Mm,
so nice. Speaks so well. He looks good on camera.
mm,
He's very knowledgeable. He's very
yeah.
serious. So there's nothing really bad about William. But so then they've got Rod Little, who sort of seems to sort of disagree with some of the. I don't know. There's a very like any party, they've got different
Yeah.
people who don't always seem to totally agree. They've got but they've not managed to cut through with the media. Partly it's
Mm,
self fulfilling because the media decides who they're going to let in, right? And they're
yeah.
not going to let in a party like SDP. That's part of it.
A
Also,
sensible party.
yeah, sensible party. Well, I've been trying to ask the SDP this. SDP offers ostensibly what the average British person wants, which is
Yeah.
social conservatism combined with some economic left wing ideas,
Yeah.
such as nationalising rail, steel,
Yeah. Mixed
water.
economy. You know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually where the average British
Yeah.
person is. But we're very rarely offered this for some reason. And Nick Timothy's quite good on this, and John Gray's quite good on this. But Nick Timothy, in his book, talks about this, where we've got these assumptions of ultra liberalism.
Mm,
I read his books. He was medical on my podcast. It never happened, but
mm,
it's like ultra liberalism in the economy and on social issues. So you get woke, but you also never get the assumptions of Thatcherism really challenged. So what the
mm,
SDP do is they challenge both.
yeah.
But that mix is what your average red wall person
Yeah.
wants, your northerner. It's what most
Mm,
people. When Cummings has said they instinctively want the NHS. People question it now because it's failed so badly, but instinctively people have wanted the NHS, strong defence, strong on
mm,
immigration, but they also and then some left wing things, as I said, on the economy. But then yeah, well, I'm not saying it right. Basically, social conservatism on things like immigration and other matters, and then left on things like the fact they want a national health service, etc.
mm,
But why are we not really offered that? Okay, we're offered the NHS, but we're not really offered a serious mix like that. So I don't know. We're just not allowed it because it's not
mm,
part of the orthodoxy. What the SDP could do better, of course, is do more to cut through that. They talk it, for my taste, too much about their history because it's not really
mm,
relevant because no one
yeah.
really knows about it. I'll give you an example. William, even though a great guy, has Owenite in his biography on Twitter. What is an Owenite? I know what an Owenite is because I
Yeah.
follow this stuff for a
Normal
living.
people don't know.
No
Yeah.
one knows what that is. He's
Yeah.
talking about he's on the side of Owen. There was a split in the old SDP,
Mm,
and one side was Owen, the other side was Jenkins, was it? I can't remember. And he goes with the Owen side, but that means
mm,
absolutely nothing to anyone.
mm,
It's so obscure. So
yeah.
someone like Farage is great at making conveying a popular and populist message.
Mm,
People like Clouston, he is serious. That's the sort of and has serious policies, but it's how do you do? As we've said, you kind of need both sides, right? You need the
yeah.
showbiz side and the other side, and it's kind of depressing because
Mm.
in a way that's the problem. In a
It's a
way, you
missed
almost
opportunity.
yeah,
Like, it's depressing for me to not see them do well because it's the biggest missed opportunity of British politics. Them not coming into power. Like, for me, I think so. Is their name. Their name stops them. So as soon as people see Social Democrat, they just no,
yeah.
no.
It sounds like Sweden or something. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, because they got SDP everywhere, like in Scandinavia here or there. There's a lot of SDP parties, like, there's a network of SDP party. They need to, like, I personally would want them to leave that. Even if they call themselves Blue Labour, they'll do well.
yeah, that's true. Blue Labour. That's the funny thing as well. Blue
That's all
Labour
what they are.
is an appealing mix that doesn't really get that far. Glassman
Hmm.
has some power in Labour, but not
Yeah.
much. That is the appealing mix that people like, and they're
Hmm.
not offered it. It's very weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, SDP, Blue Labour. That is where most people would be in Britain. It's so strange
Yeah.
how it doesn't. It's something about the system doesn't allow us to have it because these global forces have decided no, you need economic liberalism and globalism so you can bring
Hmm.
in infinity immigrants to do cheap labor. I think that's what it is. I think there are larger interests that don't want us to have this inherently sort of British
Yeah.
mix that we're not allowed it. But yeah, I mean, the SDP. Yeah, you're right. When they say things that are quite often, I'm surprised how conservative or to the right what they've just said is,
Yeah.
and so the name really doesn't match that, as you say.
Mm.
So they
Yeah.
could get a new name.
Yeah. It's sort of like they are. When I talk with them, they are very British. And the English contingent are very English, right? And I say that because you don't know if they are right or left when you're talking, but you know they're English, and that's what you actually want, right? So the first time when I talked with William Clouston was probably like my first fourth episode or something like that I was recording in a long time ago. And I told him, like, I'm not interested in, like, I'm not politically right or politically left. I want to be politically British, right? Whatever works in British interest. And that's what it seems like they are. And that's why it seems like the media doesn't want that, because they don't fit in a box, because they are only thinking in global terms: what is politically right, what is politically left, how they can sort of define them easily so they can fight against them or fight with them, sort of a thing, right? And they come with nativist ideas, which are very, everyone who is a native will inherently understand them and support them if only they knew them, which is why their name stops them, right?
Mm.
If they had a more British name to their party, people would understand them. When they say SDP, it seems like, oh, SDP of the Scandinavia, SDP of the, Denmark, like, what they're doing, like, people associate that. It would be better if they were like, just like, maybe British traditionalist, or
The
a
old
social
English party.
conservative party, or
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
something.
exactly.
Like,
That's how they
there's a
feel.
party, English Democrats, that have come up as well. Like, there's a very small party. They have like five or six local councillors or something. I was checking the other day. But that's sort of like, the name sort of signals everything to you. What
Mm.
that party is about. And I think so, as the being SDP stops them a lot.
Mm. Yeah, it's a good point. I think they could all do worse than getting together under the banner Restore Britain, which is a much better name than Advance and probably better than SDP. And they have the same aesthetic. William is in Restore Britain. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, it's partly an aesthetic thing, isn't it? And a feeling. Like, you think about Reform, you think of slick, shiny suits, kind of mimicking Trump style politics with Thatcherism as well. And you think of, as you say, kind of plausible Muslims like Layla Cunningham
Mm.
and Nazir Youth. Look
Yeah.
at our slick,
Yeah.
it's no different to Rishi Sunak or something. Whereas you
Yeah.
think about, it's true, when you think about Rupert Lowe, you think about a wheelbarrow full of shotguns
Yeah.
on a farm, and
Yeah.
he's wearing farm
Yeah.
gear, and he's a
Yeah.
bit dishevelled, but he's
Yeah.
just going to walk into Parliament and
Yeah.
probably take the whole thing over with his
Yeah.
wheelbarrow. You get a sense of an old English capability. He comes from the Dragon School. You get the feeling of like, here's a throwback to sort of old
Mm.
England. Right, let's just get it done, lads. We'll have a cup of tea, then we'll have a pint, and we'll just get it done. And we'll just stop messing around, roll your sleeves up. Kind of, there is something about that, and William has that as well, a kind of old, sort of
Mm.
English aesthetic.
Spirit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. You
they
feel
should merge.
safe.
And huh?
The English people feel safe, and
Yeah.
I think so, people don't know how to articulate this. Like, they feel safe. I feel safe, so I can see from a distance how the nativist English would feel safe with them, because they know they are the person. When you get lost, they'll tell you the right directions. They are that farmer over there that will bring you in for a cup of tea while you're waiting for your car to get fixed. Like, they are that safety. They are like, you can relate to them. They are your succession. Like, from that line they're coming in, you're of the same. They give that security. You know that they're not going to sell you. They're going to do their best to preserve you. And I think so, the only reason why SDP and someone like SDP, Ben Habib, and Rupert Lowe don't get along is the Thatcherite, right? Because that's Thatcherism. Because Rupert Lowe loves Thatcher, right?
Yeah.
And so does Ben Habib. So they have, and William Clouston is very much against it, which is why I love Rupert Lowe, because I was like, well, people don't understand how much she destroyed as well. The social aspect of the country, even though some things she had to do. But if they can resolve those differences, I think so that would be the winning thing. You're right. Like, all of them getting together.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, one, just on the sort of aesthetics and the feel.
Hmm.
Farage is at his best when he does those rural videos, because he does have that side to him.
Hmm.
He's in a rural area with his dog, knowing an awful lot about World War II. You know what I mean? Like, that is very English, and he
Yeah.
has that. but he has that other side to him that's kind of slick and wants to be
Mm.
around power, and you don't trust. So he has
Yeah.
that, but if he leans into the other side, but that's more the Rupert side. And
Mm.
someone said a while, when they were attacking Rupert and kicking him out, Zia Yusuf, someone said, posted, I always knew England was going to come down to a battle between someone called Rupert and someone called Mohammed. It was just like, it was so perfect. He's called Rupert,
Yeah.
and the other guy's called Mohammed. It was so perfect. And who you're backing in that, you see, that is an
Mm.
important choice. Like, I'm with the guy called Rupert. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just not
So am
with.
I.
I'm not with
Yeah.
the guy called Mohammed who's super slick and is trying to sell
Mm.
me something. I'm with the English guy called Rupert.
Mm.
He's not from my class. I'd probably be the help back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm from the
Yeah.
lower middle class, and my dad was working class. But he is called Rupert. He is super English, and I'm
Yeah.
backing that guy. But on the economic thing, that's the key difference. Not only is Rupert a Thatcherite, he was asked to recommend a couple of books. He recommended Ayn Rand. I mean,
Yeah.
that's hardcore. So that's like ultra libertarian.
Yeah.
Technically, it's objectivism because she invented it herself, but it's
Mm.
ultra libertarian stuff. So very, very far from
Mm.
Clouston. But SDP have said we think we can convince Rupert on some of these things. I think Rupert he might be open to realizing that the moment we're in now requires some
Yeah.
slightly different
Yeah.
economic solutions.
We,
So if
we,
they
we
could
are
sort that,
at a stage where we have to protect, right? Like protectionism is really important right now, and protectionism of your energy resources, of your transport, and of your production is very important, because otherwise you don't have safety as a nation. And this is what's happened, like where we are buying energy from foreign, like especially from France, like as if France was a friend to England at any time, buying from them, and they're selling us at more than what is worth, and they are reaping the benefits from it, while our industry, which isn't anything anymore anyways, is getting crippled. People are getting crippled by it, right? Our transport is blocking us geographically, like it's so much expensive. Because my wife is from Poland, so I usually, and she's on, her family lives on the Berlin side of, on Szczecin, which is side with Berlin. So sometimes you fly to Berlin because it's cheaper to fly to Berlin, get a train from Berlin to Poland, right? It takes 10 euros, right? Like from one country to another, it takes 10 euros. From fucking here, from Essex to London, right? And it takes less than half an hour. It takes me £35 return ticket. What the hell?
I know. I've just bought
It's crippling.
a rail card to go to Swindon because the Swindon train is so brutally expensive, and I found out I could slightly reduce it, but it's incredible. It's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Like, so we do need that protectionism. We can't sell ourselves to the corporate, because all the corporate are interested in is in globalization anyways. By the end of the day, whatever sells right now, globalization is selling, so that's what they're gonna be selling themselves to. So I do like, I hope like people like Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe do understand William Clouston's point, where we are at the moment, we can't afford. SDP's way is actually the mixed economy way, is the best way to go forward. And you can you can have the NHS, you just don't have to have it completely nationally. New Zealand doesn't do it. New Zealand has a mixed form of NHS that they have over there, right? And they're pretty lefty, like GPs and those sort of things you have to pay for. The hospitals are free, so they have a mixed way of doing things that works for them. So we can make it work. It's just all these people have to l- let go of their hangovers and sort of think, okay, what's the best thing that we need to do to come together?
yeah, I agree. And you know what? Adam from the SDP called it strategic resources. It's a good phrase.
Mm,
You need your
mm,
strategic resources. You need
yeah,
steel because you need to make weapons and things like that. So it's just a no-brainer. And William is an expert in housing, commercial housing. When he says
yeah,
that the state needs to get more involved in housing, I just tend to believe him. It's
mm,
not my expert area, and I go, it is his expert area.
mm,
I believe that guy. So I was disgusted to find out how much our North Sea oil doesn't belong to us. Everyone's always saying
yeah,
tap into our North Sea oil. Well, we have to ask about 10 American companies and
yeah.
foreign companies.
It's
It's
fucking
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It's
Yeah,
our oil. It's
yeah,
disgusting. And one controversial thing I'll just chuck in right at the end,
mm,
pointlessly, is that some of these one thing about some of these parties, they are very aggressively Zionist, and that's one
mm,
thing where I sort of go,
mm,
do I have to sign up to?
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
a lot of what Israel's doing. Do I have to? It's not like my
Yeah.
big issue. It's not my main issue. It's like,
I don't
do I have
understand
to?
why it is.
Yeah,
Like,
why?
you know,
And we
uh,
even have this, even with
yeah.
obviously Tommy gets criticized for it.
Yeah.
Ben presumably is on similar lines. I'm not sure. Maybe
He
actually I don't want to
doesn't overly
misrepresent.
care. He doesn't like he.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The thing is, like, he's sort of probably on the same position that I might be on it. That I do understand the point of Israel. Like, when, especially when it comes to battling the Islamists and stuff, they're doing us a huge favor and stuff like that. But I wouldn't want to destroy Britain for their sake. I don't want to see any protests which are like foreign protests on our streets. Like,
Right.
I don't care about that, right? Even the Iran thing, I really care about the Iranians kicking out the Islamists, because it's going to help us as well, because there's a whole terrorist network over there that, like, Israel is tackling for us, for the whole world, but basically for themselves. Why would they be doing it for the whole world anyways? But the terrorists that Iranian regime supports, right? So it would be good if they break down. It would be good for the rest of the world. But it's really not British concern, right? So
No.
it's that sort of a thing that I can understand. Okay, yeah, you be a Zionist. I would prefer a Zionist over an Islamist, right? That sort of a thing. But to go out of your way, I don't get it. Like, okay, because we should be able to criticize any country. We should be able to criticize Israel for its, its strategies or whatever stuff like that. We shouldn't just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's anti-Semitism if you talk about Israel. Like, no. And at the same time, I don't have to go like, oh, it's all the Jews. Like, have to be a
No.
balance, right?
But there's a strange tendency I've noticed, even on the
Mm.
right, people I really like, I'll be like thinking, oh, this person's my friend, I really like them. Then they'll post something really weird and sort of like, oh, when it always happens to the Jews first or something. I'll be like, hello, grooming
Yeah.
gangs. I'm like, can we
Yeah.
stop saying rubbish like this? Like, our people,
Mm.
just can we just at least consider our people? Like, we've been the amount of
Yeah.
girls. What's happened to the girls in the grooming gangs? I don't know what we
Yeah.
say on YouTube. Let's say grooming
Mm.
gangs.
Yeah.
It's a historical atrocity. We
Mm.
haven't even begun to reckon with how bad
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
This is the rape and torture of thousands of girls.
Mm.
It's a hate crime. It's got a racial and religious element. It's like the rape equivalent of genocide. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
this. So if anytime anyone says, "Oh, it's happening to the Jews," it's like, well, what about the English? Like, you can't be
Yeah.
treated worse than this. This is happening now, and it
And
can't be any worse.
Nick, like, the thing as well is, like, everyone's pain is relevant sort of to them, right? So it's sort of me saying, like, you telling me, oh yeah, your house burned down. So, oh, that's nothing, my dad died. Like, no, but your pain is equivalent to you. Why does it have to be like this victimhood Olympics that we have to do? Like, okay, why can't we just take care of our own and have that level of pain first for our own? Why do we only come out on the streets when it's something happened to the Jews, or something happened to the black people, or something happened to the Iranians? Why do we only come out on the streets for that? Right? Like, what happened to those girls, still happening to those girls, right? How many people did we see come out on the streets apart from when Tommy Robinson is doing something? Nobody gives a shit about that. Why is that? Like, that has given the people who did that has given them for 30-40 years the encouragement to keep on taking the piss. That has given them encouragement to go more into the British politics, those Pakistanis and stuff, because they can see how weak the British are, right? In their mind, like this, they're weak. They don't even give a shit about the girls, right? We've been raping them systematically. They don't give a shit. They even help us. Their Labour Party is helping us to do that, right? That is the destruction of a country, morally, spiritually, and then now, like, it will be economically and physically, right? So I just don't understand why everyone has to play that victimhood, like, sort of Olympics. Why can't we just say, like, this is something that has happened to this country, and it's a worst thing that has happened to this country, and it matters to this country, so let them focus on that. You
Yeah.
should focus on that.
What I've observed is just, as I say, yeah, I'm just similar to you. Tend to think I don't want to focus on conflicts in the Middle East. Yeah, it doesn't mean I'm pro-Palestine either. Exactly,
Yeah.
like you say. But then what I see on the right, on aspects of the right, kind of center right, is a kind of they can't take their own side or England's own side or English people or British people. So it's a kind of proxy for them. They can get really worked up about Israel and Jewish people, and it's a kind of safe proxy for them. It's like, okay, great, you want to support that cause, fine, but it's almost like obsessively supporting it, and you're not supporting your own cause or what I would call our own cause as much, and it's kind of weird at that level.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It doesn't make sense. Like the thing with Ukraine happened, everyone had Ukrainian flags. Israel happened, everyone had Israeli flags. Iran happened, they all have Iranian flags. Like, you guys didn't give a shit about those girls. You didn't give a shit, and not just the grooming girls. Everywhere else, there's deprived areas in England. Why people are living, kids are living below poverty line. You don't give a shit about that. I mean, how can you not give a shit about a person of your own ethnicity, of your own person, right? Your own, one of your own people, a kid going a whole day without eating anything, going to bed hungry, you know. But you care about, oh, the kids in Gaza. Like, what about your kids, man? Like, when are you gonna give a shit about them?
Yeah, and you can care about, but like someone like
You
Alison
can,
Pearson
but
certainly cares about the grooming gangs, but then she goes very, very pro-Israel, and people like that. I don't know. I've singled her out. I really like Alison, but I see it constantly. I do see people that care about both, but the way they care about Israel sometimes
it's not
it's just
proportionate.
off. Yeah, it's a bit off. Yeah,
Yeah.
confusing.
Because
Yeah,
if they actually cared, they would have done something, right? I think so. They care more because they know they can't do anything, because they know they can't go to Ukraine to help them, so they can do it comfortably over here. But if they had to fix the things over here, there's no excuse. Like, that's over here. Why are you not doing it? I think so. That a lot of it's sort of like student politics. Like, let's care about and protest about things that are so big that we can't make a difference, but we can look good doing it.
Yeah, and true. And as you started by saying, the thing is, actually, you can't even solve national problems here at the local level. So you've got to be
Yeah.
thinking about like the bins or something. I mean, Birmingham can't take out its bins, so it's like you actually need to focus on that.
Exactly. Okay. We've been going on for an hour. We didn't talk about boomers. We can skip talking about boomers
Probably
and not
safer.
offend your audience. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming
Thanks for
on.
having me.
What we'll do now is we'll have a short silly questions episode that is for members only. So if you are not a member, become a member. 99p, I think so it is. Just become a member and watch the silly questions with Nick Dixon episode. Apart from that, thank you for listening. Thank you, Nick, for coming on.
No worries. And by the way, if you want to find more of my stuff, Nick
Oh
Dixon
yeah,
on
I always
YouTube.
forget that.
No, it's fine. I forget as well. It's Nick Dixon on YouTube. I'll just say it. I'll just push in. Nick Dixon. It's just Nick Dixon on YouTube, and at NJ Dixon on Twitter or X, and nickdixon.net is all my paid stuff. But thank
And
you.
I'll put all the links in the description below. And if I remember, which I never do, I'll put a card up here as well, linking his. What I'll do is, end screen, there will be a link for Nick Dixon's podcast as well. So go check that out.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you, Nick.
Cheers.